Hi, I'm Dean Sage.
And I'm Jack Curvin.
And this is Show Me Your Deck,
a podcast where we explore the intersections of oracles and chakras,
using our original decks to create new insights. Episode 36, trucking right along.
36. I love the number 36.
It's a good number.
It actually happens to be my favorite haiku in the book.
What is it?
Oh, it's that's a complicated one. It's one that you have to kind of see. It's one of those that plays.
Is that the one with the letters?
Yeah, the conglomeration of letters like water droplets.
Yeah, okay, I remember that one.
It just happens to be one of the best years of my life too. So 36 is just special for me.
Oh. I don't remember what happened to me at 36. I think I got back into medicine. I think that's when I started working in medicine again, maybe. Somewhere around there.
I launched Anaros Media on my 36th birthday.
Oh, you did, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
On my birthday. The same day that I married myself, actually.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
My 36th birthday was a big, huge event for me.
I'm sure Janet was a big part of all of it.
Oh, too. She was there. Yes, of course. She choreographed the introduction.
Oh, I was teasing you the other day because we found out that Sabrina Carpenter, because she's incredibly short, has a max height on her dancers. Oh, and you got rejected for being too short for Janet because you were not up to the minimum height. But you would fit the max height for Sabrina. So you could be a backup dancer for Sabrina Carpenter. Yeah.
See, there you have it. I just missed my calling. And, Janet doesn't even have that standard anymore. Now it's just like free for all.
I mean, you were always back in the day, whatever the day was, you were always back in it.
Yeah.
when the rules were different and everybody judged things differently.
Oh, yeah. So it's an unfortunate time to be a short male dancer. Mm-hmm. I even had that one audition in front of the whole room. The woman, I'm not going to say her name. I remember it though. She told me in front of the whole room that my legs were too short, to which I immediately replied, "They reached the floor," and I turned around and walked out. I was like, "Excuse me, cover your ears, everybody, but bitch, fuck you."
Your legs are too short. Like, what are you supposed to do about that?
That's not even a valid criticism.
No.
Well, I walked out. And then as I was walking out, she's like, no, I didn't mean it. I was like, I'm gone, bye.
Accurate. Well, let's roll in then instead of walking out.
We have deck number 1. It's going to be sassy.
Here we go. Getting ready.
These are the projections. Let's see which number we've got. Didn't we just do 43 recently? I feel like we had 43 recently. Yeah. Maybe not with this deck, but I feel like we did a 43 recently.
No, we did. I think we did this exact card 2 episodes ago.
It is. Perfection is a bully. Broaden your perspective. Look at the details. Decide what matters. So this is akasha on akasha. This is purple on purple, crown on crown. How I know is affected by I know. So your biggest, broadest purpose. Perfection is a bully. Broaden your perspective. Look at the details. Decide what matters.
Kind of caught up on that first part. Perfection is a bully. I feel that very strongly this week. Maybe we'll get into that in the members only segment, but perfection is a bully. I can relate to that.
Well, it's interesting because there's this contrast here that says broaden your perspective. And then the next line is look at the details. So take the big picture, take the little picture, and then decide what matters.
Moving back and forth between the two.
Not getting stuck in either. Because perfection is a bully. If you get stuck on one, then you're ignoring what might be possible in the other.
Well, the idea of the grand, obviously, akasha, that's out there, right? It's cosmic.
It's the top of the top.
Yeah, it's what stretches beyond us, reaches beyond us. I definitely hear like a context about being, right, but not getting so hung up on being, not being so hung up on how you're being. Like I kind of liken it back to all the rules that we like to make about spirituality and religion and how you should live, right? There's all these shoulds. It seems when we engage the spiritual, we end up with like, give me the list, give me the covenant, give me the things that I should do or not do that will make me holy and good and redeemed and saved. You know, give me those things. And I just hear this context of no, just no, you know, that's, you're looking to be a perfect individual, and that's not the point. The point is the gritty details in the bigger picture and how they intersect and intertwine. And yeah, I just kind of hear like a no, just a little soft little no from the universe. You're not going to get what you think you want.
No. And once you get it, then you have to maintain a lot of struggle and expend a lot of energy maintaining it as well.
Well, and because it isn't the details, right? It isn't the things that we do that make us good or make us whole. And at the same time, we're not incomplete or dirty or sinful either. Like there's this, again, this whole, like, you have to be perfectly good, but you can't be, you know, it's this huge dichotomy running through Western religion.
Well, think about it. You're supposed to be as close to perfect as you can be, but as soon as you are, it's pride, and then they knock you down. Mm-hmm. Oh, you think you're perfect? Mm-hmm. It's like, well, what are you supposed to do with this then? So trying to find a range, and it doesn't even have to be a happy medium or a happy average, because that also is a single point. But what's the range within which you can be successful? What's the range within which you can be satisfied and happy and healthy?
Well, I wonder if even that's the right question, because that's again asking for those, you know, guideposts, right? Those give me, you know, like, should I always say yes to my neighbor, right? Like, was that what it means to be good? Should I always give money to a homeless person when I see them? Like, even those questions, I think, get us bogged down in looking for some perfect way of being instead of being as we are.
Well, what you're talking about is absolutism, as opposed to, you know, what's the opposite of it? It's absolutism is the opposite of I can't remember the word. It'll come to me later.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, though.
It's the it depends category. What is that word?
It's not
called?
Relativism that you're looking for, is it?
Yeah.
It
relativism.
Is? Okay.
Yeah. Perfectionism, relativism, the idea that there can be known answers to all questions at all times.
Well, in the moral sense, it's where you get into the ontological type of arguments, which is there is a rule, a being, like being in and of itself. So something in and of itself is good, and you can achieve that law or follow that law or discover that law. Like, there is something in the very nature of being that is moral. And that's hard because, like you said, with relativism, like, every situation that we get into.
Well, how do you know that homeless person is actually homeless? I've heard lots of stories about, you know, VPs from banks going out there and dressing like hobos and making $100,000.
There's always context. And I think that's what I get from your card. Like, I hear that very strongly, because you talked about, look at the big picture, right? Yes, homelessness is bad, and giving money to homeless is good in very large strokes, but the details matter too. And what is the context? Maybe that person doesn't need money. Maybe they need an opportunity. Maybe they need food rather than, you know, like, maybe because that we give money sometimes to this guy that stands outside Wawa, and, you know, my spouse brought up the point, what if they don't let him in, right, to buy stuff?
Oh, yeah, because if he looks homeless, what if they don't let him in to be a customer? So you might as well take the money and go and do the shopping for him. What I have done in the past is ask people what they want.
That's smart.
And just go in and get it for them. It's like, well, what do you need? What do you want?
We've done that too. Again, it gets back to what is, you know, the ultimate law to follow, the ultimate rule to follow. And you can't derive those from the nature of being. And every situation is different. everything that you come across is different, and context matters. What is good with one set of information is terrible and horrible when you get to know another piece of information, and it constantly. So I really hear that you're not going to get, so like this, I think for this reading, we're not going to get what we ask for when it comes to rules or laws or principles or, definite things that we think we want, right? Guideposts that we think we want. We have to instead understand that the details matter. The little things matter. The situations that you run into, you have to be open to general guiding ideas, but you also have to understand, like you said, like, what does that person ask? What does that person need in that context? What does each person need in the context in which you're meeting them?
And something I get bogged down in is detail. Like somebody can make a suggestion about something little, and I will fixate on it and turn it into something huge when it's something little, something simple. So you have to be careful being too microscopic in your view as well, to the point where you can't see what's happening around you.
There's a balance between the two, right? Mm-hmm. You do at your core need a moral system, and there are lots of ways of looking at a moral system, but you do need something that guides your actions, something that you can fall back on when you need to make snap decisions. And a lot of times that's trusting your gut. I'm using that in quotes, right? Trusting your gut. In this case, it would be like the third chakra. And the immediate reaction that you might have to your situation, but you do need guiding light, right? You do need guiding principles, but you can't hold on to those like they're the only rules. I have this alignment thing. You've seen it before. So Dungeons and Dragons does this alignment chart, and it's got like lawful, neutral, and chaotic. So lawful is you follow the rules. Neutral is relativism. You follow when you need to follow. You don't follow when you don't need to follow. And chaotic is is sort of anarchist. I don't follow the rules. And then they have good, neutral, and evil. So they have a 9 box, 2 dimensions. And I kind of recast this because, like, the idea of somebody just being lawful evil is hard to understand. Right, I follow the rules, but I act in evil. What does that mean? What does evil mean? What does good mean? And so I recast them as, I believe that the goodness of others is the highest priority, right? The good of others is the highest priority. And I believe that rules outweigh situations. But there's 2 people that fit in that box, and Hitler and Jesus both fit in that box. It's why Christian nationalism can exist, because they're both authoritarian. They both are looking for absolute rules to follow. And if you believe that the good of the many is encouraged by this action, you will follow it. And at the same time, you believe that there are absolute rules to which you can subscribe. And so authoritarianism and organized religion share a very common set of alignments. And that's, I mean, I don't bring that up to just, be like everything's terrible and horrible. And, there are some really bad things about authoritarianism. Then we're facing them right now as a world, not just as a country, but as a world. But they're similar, right? Those 2 ideas about looking for ultimate rules, right? Hard, fast, unchanging rules, and believing that the good of the many is more important than the good of the one. And that's the trap.
Sounds like the context for the reading today is sometimes, kinda.
Yeah. No, I mean, I really feel like you pulled the sassy, like, I really feel like the universe is saying, no, you can't have what you want, but let me give you some guidance. Let me give you something. Like, we're going to get some more cards. We're going to get some more context and clues. But the ultimate thing the universe is saying is, no. Well, it's relative.
It depends.
Yeah, it's relative. isn't necessarily what you want it to be. I've been watching some Star Trek lately, and I'm just reminded of how noble that ideal is, but how stilted all of the interactions are because of it. And I'm thinking Next Generation, not like the later, like DS9 and things and Voyager, where they explored more relativistic issues within Starfleet, especially DS9. But the Next Generation, that was still Gene Roddenberry's baby, and it still had those just, glorious ideals. And here's Captain Picard, and if he sticks with his ideals, everything will be fine. And
dry.
Yeah. And staying true to the mission and the standards, and you can still achieve things where we know that that's not always right.
How do you know everybody wants to be discovered? Leave us alone.
Shall we get some more card action?
So I guess going forward, everything that we see going forward, it'll just be, it depends. It depends.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay, here we go. Oh, interesting. I pulled up high. You're going to love this one. This is number 1, the Primal. So this is root chakra and throat chakra touching.
We just went. Oh, okay. I thought you were about to say root and root. I was like, okay. I was about to say, what?
Hello. You already have what you need. Now do it.
Kinda.
You already have what you need. Now do it. I'm looking in my book here.
It depends.
This is the first one of the archetypes, which is in my book the sort of characters in the tarot. The Primal speaks to the part of you that knows you are enough. Within you is the magic you need to accomplish the task of forming the elements you will later shape and order. The lie you tell yourself is that you need more time, more money, more energy, or inspiration, but you've already walked the journey this far, learning yourself along the way. Now is time to begin the greater journey. There are 7 guides along your way, but this journey is for you alone. Embrace the truth. You already have what you need. The time to use that magic is right now.
So what I hear in that is actually reinforced by the first card. With the first card focusing on reminding you to be aware of the fallacy of perfectionism, here you have a reminder that you are enough. You have enough. You don't need more. You don't need less. Make your plans. Go forward and act. What I hear from this card is you're okay. Yeah, you're okay. You're good. You're doing fine. Keep going.
Well, the Primal is the magician in the tarot, and there's this idea of just pure reality setting. And so it's very interesting that the Primal comes up here, because the Primal shapes the elements. Right. So in the tarot, we've gone through, we've started with the root chakra. We've gone through the element of earth, element of water, element of fire, element of air. So we've risen up the body, and we've encountered the sort of material elements, right? The pieces that make up a material world. Now is the first time where we begin to look at a spiritual world, and it's with the throat chakra. So it's in communication with others. So the Primal is an archetype, is a paragon, and I think in the words that you would use, of this idea that you are the source of all of these elements, right? As you rose up the chakras, you learn that you are the source of your fire, you're the source of your water, right? The emotions, the power, the grief and the joy, it's all you. You're the source of it. But then not only are you the source of it, but you shape it and create it. You literally bring the elements forth into existence. And that, I think, is a powerful message here, because again, we started off with the, well, kind of no, I know what you want. And this is just saying, yeah, you can't get this externally, right? Because you have to do it internally. You have to shape these elements. You have to shape the way the world is interacting with you and how you're interacting with it. You're the cause, right? You're the primal mover, the first mover, the first thing to change the firmament.
Oh, and because you're a bit of a blank slate in that way, your possibilities are endless. And as you start accumulating experiences and practices, certain nuances will stand out and you'll find patterns that are larger and broader. But while you're going through that process of realizing you, it's not necessary to achieve a particular goal if you don't even know what the journey is.
Well, it's a perfect example. Like we go back to the homeless people. Like a lot of times, like my parents, it was drilled in my head, don't give homeless people money. They just want to buy drugs. So you have to approach that though. And you don't have the luxury of just relying on that rule. You know, you have to go out and say, look, is it good of me? Is it in the interest of good to spread wealth that I have to people that don't have it? And does the potential consequence of that money being used to harm the individual, is that bad? Is that something that I need to consider? Is that something that's part of my equation? Or is it better for me and for the universe to do the good and accept that there will be consequences that are not good? And this is, I mean, this is a very complex equation, right? There's the terms are ever changing. And like we said, every situation is different, but you still, even though the universe is saying, I'm not going to give you something precise, you still have to kind of struggle. I think that's why the primal came up, because you have to struggle with it. It's not just going to pop out of the ether, right? It's not going to just lower itself from the cosmic ocean and bathe you in understanding. Like that's just not how enlightenment works. It's a spiral journey, and you have to journey, right? You have to walk. You have to pick up sticks and gather and make fire and, you know, shelter. And you have to go through all those steps. And so part of that is you have to do moral exploration. I think I see that lacking. I think that's why this card is here today. Because if you're listening, you probably don't have this problem, but I think you know people that do, that just don't have moral acumen. They don't think morally. They don't think about the world in terms of what ought to be done. They just react. There's just constant reaction. And I think that's the flip side of this card, is that if you don't take time to consider what you're creating, you just create, right? You just make movements, and you are powerful, and your movements are powerful. They echo, they change things.
So there's something you just said. I don't remember the exact words, but it struck a chord with me. The first card is reminding you not to work yourself to death for some ideal of perfection, but something you just said is that you still have to I don't know if you use the word struggle, but you still have to work hard. The issue here is that we're not saying don't try, don't bother, don't care. We're saying that you have to be careful about what you care about. Mm-hmm. So this is not to say that, you know, you just stop worrying about perfectionism and then suddenly everything's happy. No, you still need to work with yourself as a person and the situations that you are in and that you create. The two cards together, in my opinion, are reminding us that throughout the course of our hard work and our toil and our struggle, it's worth it and it's interesting and it's valuable, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be you.
That's important. It doesn't have to be perfect. We have to remember that it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not going to. It can't be, right? In relativistic terms, there is no perfect. Because there is no ontologically achievable good. The idea is worth pursuing, but the existence of it, the existence of the pure good, doesn't exist.
This is all an experiment.
There's I forget the name of it now. I've got my book behind me. There's the idea of if you create more good than you create bad, you're doing good. Mm-hmm. I think this was it wasn't hedonism. What was the one? No, it wasn't John Locke. I can't remember any names now. No, it's gone. It's not going to come back. But there's the name for utilitarianism.
Okay.
Yeah, utilitarianism. That's the one.
And the idea is that as long as you're doing more good than bad, you're okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The idea is to create more good in the world than bad is created, and then you're doing okay. And that's a very appealing mindset, and a lot of people followed it.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense.
It sounds to me like a more utilitarian wording of the idea that you leave people in places better than you find them.
Yeah, no, that's a very good workup of it. So in that case, giving money to homeless people is good because it's increasing the good in the world. Even if sometimes it gets used for ill, you're still in general increasing the good that you see, the good that's around you.
I mean, depending on how you want to look at it, you giving them money, even if they happen to use that money to buy drugs, at least they didn't mug anybody to get that money. I mean, all of this is relative. Yes. Okay. So, I mean, I've said this before in past episodes. I think intention is interesting. I think intention is important, but ultimately your intentions don't matter. What you do matters. That's what traces an action on somebody's life. That's what leaves an effect. That is what results as a cause. So understanding your intentions, that's fine. And if your intention is to be helpful, giving somebody homeless this money and then they overdose and die, is that your fault? No, it's not, because they chose to use the money in a way that you didn't intend. Okay, fine. Is it your fault? No. Did you cause it? Yes.
I just got the image of the difference between a movie and a book. And it's funny because, we're both obviously writers, but I would prefer if I could get paid to do it, I would prefer to write screenplays. That's just kind of where my creativity goes. It's very visual creativity. Mm-hmm. But the difference, right? I think the trouble that I have when I write a book is that books are all about intentions. You're in the character's mind. You're seeing the inner workings. It's all about intention. And there's very little consequence because the action pieces, especially in sort of dense novels, there's actually not a lot of action, right? It's mostly internal conflict and struggle and understanding and monologue and all these kind of interior thoughts. And then in a movie, it's only what you can see. It's only what happens. Like the character the actor can act in a way that lets you know that there's internal things happening, but you don't know unless they do voiceover, which I hate voiceover. But unless they do voiceover, you don't know what's going on inside anyone's head. All you have are their actions. And so I think that's a very interesting dichotomy because there are people that adore books and hate movies because movies can't provide that interior world. And then there's people that prefer movies versus the books, because they don't want the interior world. They want the outside external action. And that's such an interesting dichotomy that obviously we live in both worlds, right? So we each have our internal monologue and we've got our moral guidance and compass and understandings and things that we're reaching for and striving for, but everyone else is just watching the movie of us. So all they see is what comes out.
Wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's true. Snaps on that. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I hope the microphone picked that up. Shall we roll?
Shall we roll?
The opposite end. We're going to the haiku now. Deck number 4.
Okay.
These are the perceptions of joy. What number? She's getting on my nerves. We're going 49.
Okay.
I know 49 came up recently. I don't remember in what format or what context, but I think at the time I was like, 49 never comes up. Let's get the haiku. Let's get the reading. Let's get the profession. Let's look at the card. It's like, and here's 49 again. So here we go. The odds are finally evening out. Now we're getting some 49s up in here. So this is Akasha, purple, crown, I know, as it is influenced by third eye, blue, water, I see. So how your purpose, your sense of morality, how all of that, projection out into the universe and connection out to the broader whole, how that is influenced by the way you perceive the world and what you know. Okay. Ozone, thunder, hush, electric tension, listen, cascading rain, learn. Ozone, thunder, hush, electric tension, listen, cascading rain, learn.
Deeply powerful, very, very evocative. All of the senses.
All of the senses.
And storm is so interesting here. Obviously water, right? Your system, the third eye is water, so it makes sense. But having a storm this high is very interesting to me because my storms are in the heart. So my storms are lower. Having a storm of spiritual energy, of cosmic ocean energy, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
But we still got to take it ozone. So like that snap, that tinge, that zingy
kind of smell. Something's about to happen. You can feel the barometric pressure shifting.
Yeah, that little edge to the air, and then the liveliness of the air when you've got an electrical storm, the tension that you feel. I know I've said it before, but there's a handbell piece that I absolutely adore called Tempest, and it captures that feeling of the pre-storm energy that just sort of it's off balance. Like it's in a asymmetrical rhythm. Well, it's symmetrical, but if you take it in little chunks, it's asymmetrical. So it's 3 and then 2, and then 2 and then 3. So do 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 do, and it has this kind of gallop, off kilter feeling because it's not like a do 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 do, right? Like it doesn't have that 4 pattern. It has that da 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 da, and you can just feel that energy, like that tension. What's interesting though is when it gets to the storm, it becomes very rigid. Dun 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 dun. And
this sounds marvelous. I'm at some point going to have to go find this piece. It reminds me of what what's his name? John Adams' Short Ride in a Fast Car. Have you ever heard that?
No.
Ooh, honey, you must. I'm going to send you the link to that because you will get your life. It's for the whole orchestra, but ooh, honey, you will get your life.
Okay. But yeah, that sense in the music is, I'm hearing that in your words of that pre-storm energy, and it is such a clarity and reflectiveness to that moment. I think that adds perfectly to where we are. We've got,
well, it's looking at not only your sense of purpose and morality and the way that you are thinking about the ways in which your cause and effect leave a legacy. It's happening by way of how you perceive the world. So, okay, here we are, trying not to get hung up on perfection, trying to work hard on being ourselves. Well, this is that process that you were just describing. You were describing the process of working with yourself like clay and molding yourself. Well, here it is. And you do that by learning. And part of learning is waiting and watching and thinking, pausing, and then acting. So I don't find my own learning process to be particularly linear. I go through ups and downs and backs and forths and looping back on myself to reiterate. And that's kind of what the chaos of a storm is like. You don't know which direction it's going to go. Like you can smell the ozone. You feel it in the air. Lightning's about to strike. You don't know where. You don't know when. You don't know what the voltage will be. You don't know what the effect will be. What if it hits that tree? What if it doesn't? What if it's a big blanket of light instead of a forking strike? You don't know how circumstances are going to evolve until they've actually happened, and then you can react to them. And you learn from the process. But that is the process of learning to be yourself, is figuring out how to take a situation and make from it something that feels authentic to yourself, and not try to and try to not get hung up on whether or not other people like it, or even necessarily whether you like it. It's just a learning process.
Well, there's reflection, is I think the thing that I'm hearing in the haiku is a pause and reflection.
Mm-hmm.
It's the I see in a spiritual sense, and the grasping for eternity in a cosmic spiritual sense. And I just go to things like people that have dealt with death, right? We both have had death recently. My father is a theologian. He actually wrote a book that I need to edit, where he espouses his ideals for the church, and he's got good ideas. He has good ideas, and I appreciate his thinking is clearer than most when it comes to it. But this is kind of where the rubber meets the road, and even he's had these issues of like, how do you believe in something like a loving God and then see people just taken out of nowhere? And my mother just dropped dead, just completely, her brain was gone within seconds, and it took her body another day to give out. But like, what, how do you reconcile that? And I think that's there's this moment of reflection here where there are lightning strikes that are going to hit in your life, and they're going to, like the Tower card in the tarot, they're going to topple things. My mom's death toppled some of my dad's beliefs. And, I think he used the idea of theoretical theology and practical theology. He's like, before she died, it was theoretical theology. Now that she's dead, it's practical. Because is she there waiting? Right? Is there some moral good to everything that happened? And it's an interesting, it's an interesting place to be. So there's this moment of reflection. There's these lightning strikes, and it changes. It's gonna make things very practical for you, right? It's gonna take it out of the theoretical realm, and like lightning zap, it's gonna make it a practical moment. And that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where, like, if you did give the guy money, and then the next day you find him on the sidewalk, dead with a needle in his arm, that's a moment of lightning for you. And you're going to have to take that in and go, oh my gosh. And like you said, we can reason through it. The consequence was not intended. It's not your fault, but you do have to reconcile that something bad, right? Something not good occurred because of your actions. And you have to take all that in and try to synthesize it. And that's where this is happening. It's the I see and the connection to the universe, and trying to have those two energies, one of which is very internal focused, but sees externally, right? So it's the eye that sees, but it is also, you're part of the other that you're seeing. And there's that dichotomy that you need to find the synergy in order to get through to the next level of understanding, of enlightenment.
Yeah. How does that sit within the context of perfectionism?
I think it's because you want a perfect system. You want a perfect understanding. You want to have, like we said, rules to follow. We want to have an understanding. In our desire to be perfect, we have a desire to not stress or have to think too hard.
I just realized something. In our desire to be perfect, we also need everybody around us to be perfect as well, so they don't fuck up our system. So I gave you money, homeless person. Now you are dead. You fucked up my system. I'm being generous, and now you're dead.
I did good, but it did not create good. Yes. And it was someone else's intervention.
I think that part of what this current card is reminding us is that, what's the line? It's ozone, thunder, hush, electric tension, listen. This is where you need to listen. Cascading rain, learn. So the degree to which you want to pay attention to all these details is probably the degree to which you will go crazy. So it seems to me that the utilitarian approach makes the most sense in this moment. You're doing the best you can with what you got. And trying to avoid causing any more bad than as less of that as possible without burying yourself in guilt when you do make mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is the trouble, right? We're in the third eye chakra. We are about our interactions. We are about seeing that we are not separate from others, and yet understanding that in this moment, this reality that we live in, we are individuals, and it's that dichotomy. It's that conflict of being individual, being the sum of the whole, and that idea of, like you said, of perfection, of everyone else, and that's the other trouble with morals, is that once you say this is it, this is morality, this is how it should be done, you want others to follow it too, because you believe this is the way it should be done, and this is how
it works for me. It should work for everybody.
Exactly. And then it's troubling when you find someone else who has different views, and then you argue about principles, but then lightning strikes and each of you has to do it. And it's interesting because when the lightning strikes, as much as you have theorized and created an ideal, your gut sometimes takes over, and something that you learned as a child, the moral system that you learned as a child that was ingrained in you by your parents, suddenly pops out and takes over. And it's just interesting. It's interesting that the lightning is so clarifying at times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm going to get another card here. Let's see if we stay up high. We've been on the higher chakras. I wonder if we'll get a lower chakra. Okay. Oh, we did. We got the root chakra. So we have the 6 of Seeds.
I was guessing 6 of Cups. Look at me. I got close. I got close.
Look at you. 6 of Seeds. Gather so that you may share.
Well, that's part of the learning process, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's really interesting because this card in particular is about giving money to others. So we've been talking about it, but in the tarot, the idea here is that the 6 person has more than they need. They have enough to sustain them, but then they also have more than they need to sustain them. And so what do they do with that extra? How do they handle having extra? And so this is, really saying from a position of privilege, what happens when you have more? Because it's different when you don't, right? It's different. Like the 5 of Seeds, the 5 of Pentacles is about having lack. You don't have enough. You are hungry. You are homeless. You are starving, or you're in need of your medication. Like whatever it is, you're lacking. The 6 is about having it, and how do you handle that with others? And that's the trouble that I have with all moral thought, is that it ends when you no longer have privilege, because morality is a kind of privilege. To be able to theorize about what is good, you don't have to face real evil. You don't have to face real terror, real problems, because it's such a different question to ask. Well, what is good in a state where there is genocide? What is morally good in a case where they're going door to door trying to shoot people? It's a very privileged thing to be able to think about morality when you are faced with survival. So I think that's interesting that card comes up now to kind of remind us that, yes, it is important. I just, saying all that, I'm not saying you shouldn't think morally. You shouldn't have a moral compass that you create for yourself. But it is a bit of a privilege to be able to do that, to have the psychological safety to do that.
And to try to remember that you may not feel the same on the other side of a situation. And how deep is your faith if it is so relative?
I mean, this is something that troubles Christian theologians. I remember growing up in the church and then going to school, and moral relativism was a huge problem because they believe in absolute rules, right? Absolute rights, absolute ideals that are unchangeable. And then when philosophy says, well, like we've been talking about,
let me ask this question.
It's relative. There's no way to apply a single rule and have a good outcome every time.
Well, I don't remember if this is strictly Catholic or if it's Christian in general, but it always annoyed me that a sin is a sin. So, telling a lie is just as bad as killing somebody. It's like, no, that doesn't, no. Well, that is not right.
That's because it is bad, right? It is not good to break a commandment, to break a rule of God. So anything that breaks a rule of God is a sin, and all sins are equal. All sins are bad. But that's the problem with an absolute rule, is that it leads to things like, I lied about taking the bread because my sister was starving, and I stole and I took the bread. And it's like, well, or I lied because if I had told the truth, someone would have gotten hurt. So, I told a lie to protect someone. And this is where the moral absolutes are problematic, because it does treat things that should be weighed and fancied together. And this is, again, why the alignment chart that I was working on was so interesting to work on, because a lot of people really are more neutral than they think they are.
So this is it seeds?
Seeds, yes.
It brings us back to the example of sharing from abundance and it not turning out right. So if the idea is that generosity is good, even if it enables or empowers or finances bad, is it still worth giving?
I have the greatest lie you can tell yourself is that your profits are your own, that you alone created them, and to you alone their spoils are owed. All wealth, all that flows in capitalism, is taken from the labor of others, and that is gained by the labor of others. You are not unique, you are not immune, you are not special, you are part of the cycle, and so you must decide how you will be, what you will do, and most importantly, how you will use what you have to improve where you find yourself. There is reward in reaching out to others and connecting and helping to fill needs. You grow more firmly rooted the more you support those around you.
So here's an example. Is it Jeff Bezos that owns Amazon?
Yes.
His ex-wife has given away billions and billions of dollars already. It's quite spectacular when you look at the sheer scale of what she's done. And on the surface, it looks really generous. But, sometimes when I read articles about her, I can't tell if it's the bias of the author or, just cynicism throughout our culture. But it almost feels like she's giving away just to piss him off. And then is it generous?
I mean, there's a great show called The Good Place. I'm going to spoil one thing for you if you've not watched it. So if you haven't watched it, skip ahead a little bit, because I don't want you to get spoiled, because it is a great show and you should watch it. But there's a place called the middle place. So there's the good place, the bad place, and the middle place. And the middle place was created for one individual who was a coked up stockbroker lady in the 80s who, I think I'm remembering right, she hit the stock market just right and made like $1 billion. The money doesn't matter. She made like $1 billion. And in that moment, she left it to charity and died. So it was like she put it in her will that it would go to charity, and then she died. So she had this really bad life. She should go to the bad place, right? For all the sins and things that she had done. But then she, in this one moment, did this really good thing, this monumental good thing that resounded for generations, right? Had an impact on hundreds of thousands of lives. And so for that reason, they had to create the middle place because it was neither good nor bad. It was just meh.
Well, so then that's why Martin Luther started the Reformation. That's just one big, huge indulgence.
Yeah.
That's just buying somebody's soul out of purgatory or hell.
Well, in the good place, sins and virtues are weighed by a point system. And so if you do something good, you get good points. If you do something bad, so it's like karma, but very literal karma.
Yeah, but that's a literal indulgence. Mm-hmm. So, okay, I get it.
Yeah. But I think, like I wrote about capitalism in this card, and I think that's kind of where we're at too. Like, I always say that there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, right? The food that we eat is picked and processed by people working 14 hours a day, with very little health or money.
Protection.
Yeah. The clothes we wear are made in sweatshops. It's gotten better for some brands have gotten better, but they're still profiting on the labor of others, the hard labor of others.
So this still comes back around to the first card, the context card for today, is not allowing yourself to be bogged down in perfectionism. Because if you start thinking about all this, you won't be able to do anything.
Well, that's the tricky part. So we've talked about how you should be moral, right? We've talked about how you should have a moral compass, but then you get to something like capitalism where you can't possibly be good.
No, there's no such thing as a moral billionaire. It's not possible.
It's not possible. The more money you have, the more you
the more people you stepped on.
The labor of others. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. I'm sorry if it offends you, but there are no moral billionaires. It's not possible. I don't know what the cutoff number is, but that certainly is way above it.
Well, and yet, what do you do when you have excess? That's really the question under capitalism. What do you do when you have excess? And so the idea of Jeff Bezos' wife giving away billions of dollars is good. But then are her intentions pure? Who's to say? Does it matter if they're pure? Does it matter if it's to piss off Jeff Bezos? Good is still happening.
Mm-hmm. She's still funding people that, are concerned about education and medical research and, environmental protection, all this stuff. So regardless of her intention, which is what I said earlier, it doesn't really matter because this is the net effect. She's funding activity that will produce good.
And this is why utilitarianism has a bad rap sometimes, is that good things can happen from ill intention. And it feels like, right? It feels like ill intention should be bad. Like from a moral standpoint, you shouldn't act out of ill intention, even if it creates a net good by accident or by
that's the very definition of irony.
Yes. Well, again, so I mean, going back to Bezos' wife, and of course, I think we have to. It goes without saying, we don't know. We're not saying that she
we're watching her movie.
Yeah, we're just saying that it's an interesting theoretical idea of doing so much good from an ill place. Morally, humans morally have a problem with that. We would be like, well, that's not good. But it is good, right? In the utilitarian sense, it's very good.
Yeah. Well, she's living her book and we're watching her movie, to your point.
Mm-hmm. And what's important, this is where the perfection comes back in.
Does the intention have to be
exactly
pure? Because if the outcome is good, then isn't that good enough?
And you can completely tie yourself up in knots when you go into your book and worry about everything that you think. And this is where sin got me as a young person, whereas it wasn't actions that were bad, it was the thoughts that I were having that were bad.
Yeah, you don't even get to act on them. Just having, it's already inside you.
Because that was something very specific that Jesus said, and people took very literally. If you think about having an affair, you've already had an affair.
Mm-hmm.
But we have horrible, atrocious thoughts all the time.
Mm-hmm. I was having them when I was on hold a little while ago.
Yes. Very, very, very evil thoughts come to us at all manner of time and day, and lust is there. And I don't think
and all of it.
I don't think that we understood what, Jesus was saying in that part. He wasn't trying to create a new standard of sin. I think he was trying to make a point that you can't just do good things. You have to be good.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, he was saying you can't just do utilitarianism. You have to operate from a sense of a place of good, not just an action of good. Yeah. And the Catholic Church is ripe for this. You can't just do good things, like show proper action and then live, a life in contradiction to that.
Until you're on your deathbed and you do a final confession. But true. Again, it's human nature to look for loopholes because life is hard. And we want to get from A to Z with as little pain as possible. So that's what, this is what the martyrs do.
Mm.
They are constant no matter the book or the movie. But that's why they're martyrs and that's why they're rare.
I think I want to do one more of my cards. I just have a
but to be a martyr, look at what that means. I mean, we're talking about perfection and all that. A saint is as close to perfection as a human being can be. They don't seem like very happy people when you learn about their lives. It's like, ooh.
No, and actually I didn't know this, but Mother Teresa didn't believe.
She was not a nice person.
Well, she didn't believe in like pain medicine for terminally ill people.
No.
So
she did other stuff too. But
just the idea of caring for someone that's terminally ill and sort of not rejoicing, but being okay with their suffering, as though honestly, and I don't know much about her. I won't speak to it because I haven't done the research. I just saw this little factoid that was like, oh, that's interesting. But there are people that think suffering is salvation, that suffering is good.
Yeah, it's the mortification of the flesh.
That there is good in suffering, that it is morally good to suffer and rejoice in the suffering of others.
But that's the forging of the sword. The pain and the suffering is the hammer coming down and knocking the pig iron out of the way and just letting the sword remain, getting stronger and stronger. So, I mean, there's this idea that Christ suffered, therefore we should suffer. It's like, yeah, but Christ also turned water into wine, bitch. Let's do this party.
Well, and again, I mean, we've crossed into, the internal part of moral relativity, where we want others to prove that they are moral, to prove that they are
so we
good.
Can watch their movie because we can't read their book.
Yeah. All right, one more card here. This one here. Oh, we pulled a storm. Nice little red color at the end of the day. This is the Four of Storms. Even the wind lies still for a time. Even the wind lies still for a time. So this card has the idea of rest, even amongst the tears and troubles of the world. It follows the Three of Swords, which is famous because it's the swords with the heart that pierce through the heart.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, there's a moment of real grief that you've just passed through, and this is sort of the respite afterward. The hardest thing to do is nothing. Our ancestors were anxious little creatures that startled at every sound, at every grumble and groan. It's why they stayed alive to eventually become us today. You may feel like the only way to exist is to keep moving, keep doing, but you miss the opportunity to rest your body and especially your mind and spirit. You've been told success requires constant work. That is a lie. Success at a skill will require hard work, but it requires rest from that work just as much. Slowing down, even stopping, is not the enemy of progress. Your best ideas come from times when your mind is at peace and you can allow yourself to search within as well as without. Take time out of every day to examine stillness and peace. How do you define happy? How do you define joy? What are you afraid of in the silence?
This one reminds me of the card we pulled just a little while ago with the storms. There's the line about hush and listen.
Mm-hmm.
There's another reminder here that sometimes doing less is in fact doing more. For example, I just finished a huge project with my novel, and I want to keep picking at it. It's like, no, it needs to sit there. It's like a cake. It needs to sit there. It needs to set. If you try to take this cake out of the pan when it's still hot, it's going to fall apart. If you try to ice it when it's still hot, it's going to melt and dribble and run away. Sometimes the best you can do is nothing. Just leave something alone, cogitate on it, think about it, let it take its full form. You've done something. Okay, well, how is it going to adjust once it's sitting out there in reality? If you keep acting, you never allow something to be.
In the sense of creating your moral guideposts, your moral compass, you can't continually be at it. You can't continually monitor yourself. You have to just set it as best you can and then live your life and follow what feels right for you. You have to come to a state of rest after all the mental gymnastics and turmoils, right? And we talked about the lightning strikes. It's like after lightning strikes, you need to rest. A lot happened, right? A lot of things happened. You were upended in some of your thinking. It's okay to let it come back to rest and just kind of let it sit and think again.
So as a personal trainer, I sometimes have clients. I have a new client who is in this category right now, wants to keep doing and doing and doing and doing and doing, and not appreciating that the body has to sleep in order to heal and grow. And he keeps asking me how he can speed this up and how much more he can do here. And I'm feeling impatient and blah, blah, blah. It's like, it doesn't matter how you feel. The body needs what it needs. And part of what it needs is time. And the only time you grow and heal is when you're asleep. So what do you need to do next? Nothing. You need to lay down and go to bed.
Well, the soul needs time and healing as well. The morality that you're carving out and dealing with and working on, that's soul work. That's time with your higher self, with your conscience, with your spirit, and that too needs rest. You can't, just like you can't work on the body constantly, you can't work on the spirit constantly. You need time to settle, to let the things that you've reasoned out and thought about and created, let them settle into patterns and let them settle into reactions, so that the next time you're faced with that moral dilemma, you have something to rely on, to fall back on.
Yeah, you're ready. You've recovered.
Mm-hmm. And you don't knee jerk to your childhood, right? You have a different approach this time because you've let it settle, like your cake metaphor. You've let the cake settle. You've let it become whole. It's no longer a mixture of volatile elements, but it's a cohesive structure that can bear weight, right? We've seen them make amazing cakes.
This is actually a pretty appropriate metaphor, because if you try to ice that cake when it's still too hot, nothing will stick. Mm-hmm. It'll turn into goop and run away, run off. If you keep trying to mess with your soul while it's hot, or your mind while it's hot, nothing's going to stick. You're creating new neurons. You're creating new soul folds, I suppose. You have to chill. You need to chill so there's some texture for this icing to stick to. Whatever these ideas are, whatever these moral lessons are, if it doesn't have anything to cling to, then it's just going to dribble away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have a members only Patreon. So if you'd like to support us and get longer episodes where we talk about how the reading influenced us personally, you can go to our Patreon. Our YouTube is Show Your Deck on YouTube. We took the full pictures that we've made and we put them online, and you can see the cards and see what we're talking about and how all the pretty colors line up, especially in Jack's decks with intersections. Our books and our decks are available at showyourdeck.com. So if you'd like to order the books or the decks, you can get those at showyourdeck.com. Jack, where can we find you?
I'm at 49 Haiku. That's the number 4, the number 9, HAIKU. On the internet, that's www.49haiku.com. And on Instagram, it's at 49 Haiku.
And I am Dean Sage Media. Find me if you dare. Our show has Instagram. It's at your deck, and we'll say goodbye.